Hey everybody, I'm Jordan of Warpfire Minis. Today we've got another battle report. This time it's going to be Skaven versus the Golden Boys themselves, the Stormcast Eternals. Let's get into it. We've got a brand new Skaven list for today, and we've still got some familiar faces in there with the Deceiver and Thanquol. But then we're really going to try and show off the new Ratling Guns. They're super good. And then the other big one is the Warpseer, and on paper he doesn't do much damage, so you have to try and use his other abilities to get value. And so things like popping those 6 Ratling Guns out of the knot-hole at 9 inches away so they can't redeploy out of it, being able to shoot, and then in the opponent's turn, move that same squad 8 inches backwards. Now you've created this 17-inch gap, and you can still redeploy to get even farther away. So it lets you be able to put those Ratling Guns exactly where they need to be, and then instantly pull them back to safety, which is a really good trick for us going forward. And then another thing I like to do with the Warpseer is use him as a distraction card effects. What I mean by that is, like, this game I teleported him way off of an objective to where he had the option of he can go chase this down or leave it alone. It's just something there. This is a decision point for my opponent now. Are they going to go chase this and not participate in the rest of the game? Or are they going to let him be there, potentially hit them with the spell, continue to get that 2-inch bonus, and then even if they do decide to go after him, with that 4-up fight last, there's still a chance for him to contribute before he dies. You're going to get that chance to put your damage in first, then maybe you live through the combat. If they take the double turn, you can hit the fight last again, so it makes it something where it's not a reliable option for the opponent to go after. Let's just hop over to the table. So first up, I'm going to run you guys through our lists. And on the Stormcast side of things, he has Krondys, which is the spellcasting dragon. 1 squad of 4 Stormdrake Guard, just 4 dragons. Karazai on this side, he's the melee dragon. A squad of 3 Praetors, which are going to make Karazai more durable. And then he's got 3 Aetherwings off in Deep Strike. Then on the Skaven side of things, I've got 2 squads of 20 Clanrats, the Deceiver, Thanquol. Then over here is the Warpseer. Then we also have a squad of 10 Night Runners. And then for the firepower, we've got 6 Ratling Guns. And then I also have 3 other Ratling Guns in Deep Strike. We're going to pop those out of a knot-hole somewhere. For the manifestations, we're running the Aetherwrought, which is going to be the cogs, the pendulum, and the swords. And that's that, so we'll jump into the game. For this one, the mission is focal points. And so it's the one where you have the 2 flank objectives, 2 home objectives. You want to try and hold both flanks or both homes. Then later on, the underdog can change this middle one to be either a flank or a home objective, whichever one they need it to be. In this case, the Stormcast player outdropped me and gave me the first turn. So we'll go over to Skaven, top of 1. First up, start a battle round stuff. I've got to place down a knot-hole. And the terrain is pretty tight on this table, but we end up going for a really aggressive play. We're going to drop it over here next to Krondys. And so we set this one up over here, outside of 9 of Krondys, and then outside of 3 of these 2 pieces of terrain. And I've got those Ratling Guns in Deep Strike. We've got these 6 Ratling Guns here. We're just positioning ourselves here, just go for a big alpha strike and try and see if we can drop him. Battle tactic-wise, we go for Seize the Center. When you're playing against Stormcast lists like this, they don't have any run and charge or any real abilities to try and deny the center from you. So, going to be a super safe battle tactic. And then also our pregame move with the Night Runners, we went ahead and moved them up. On this map, the 2 places of power are here and here, so we don't activate any of those, and we'll jump into spellcasting. The first thing we do is we go for Skitterleap from Thanquol, and we Skitterleap the Warpseer. And we place him over here next to this place of power, and within 18 inches of Karazai. And the game plan here is we're going to try and hit Karazai with that D6 charge spell, just to keep him from potentially taking this objective back. Then we're also placing him in a spot that's off of this objective. So if Karazai wants to go over there and not participate in the game to try and kill my Warpseer, that's fine. It's a points game. I'm going to try and do everything I can do to score more points than you. So by pulling you that way, it's great. And just in case I fail this spell right now, when it goes to the opponent's turn, now I'm going to be next to that place of power where I can activate it and get +1 to cast to try again. And with Krondys all the way on this side of the board, he's not going to have an unbind attempt, so the odds are pretty good here we can get this off. Then next up for Thanquol, he goes for the cogs. We get it off. We set it over here within 3 inches of him to go and activate the -1 to hit. With the 3 big wizards, I can keep them wholly within 12 a lot of times. Just that -1 to hit, really useful. And again, we're going to be out of unbind range of Krondys, so I'm definitely going to get it turn 1. Then for the Deceiver, we go for the Pendulum, and we get it off. we set it down over here, and we're angling it this way. Looking at the board, his dragons are either going to go over here to this objective or make a play on the center. They can move 10, finished about in this zone. So we're setting up the pendulum to where if he does move here, the pendulum's just going to move right across and hit him, potentially get within 3 where they can't charge. Then we go over to the Warpseer for his spellcast, and we go for that D6 charge spell and we fail. Then I go for the swords just to get another spell out, and we fail that one too. My opponent chooses not to magical intervention, just nothing good was in range of Krondys, and so we'll jump straight into movement. Movement-wise, we send the Deceiver up here, within 3 inches of the center for our battle tactic. We run the Clanrats to do the same. The Night Runners over here, we just move a little bit closer to the action. This squad of Clanrats, we shift over towards this objective. And then Thanquol also moves up a little bit, just making sure we stay within 3 of Cog so we can activate that again. Then I want him to be within 13 so he can try for his War Scroll spell if the dragons do come this way. Then last but not least, we got the 6 Ratling Guns. We shift them over here towards this gnaw hole. And then end of move, we're going to teleport them over here, make our play on Krondys. Then we also, from this gnaw hole, deep strike in those 3 other Ratling Guns. And that takes us to the end of movement. He goes for a redeploy on Krondys and rolls a 2. So we go over to the shooting phase, and Krondys was his general, and this squad of 6 Ratling Guns was my priority target, so we're going to have +1 to hit and +1 to wound there. I roll for the buff on these guys and these guys both, just fishing for that extra rend. I don't get it, but we do get the +1 to wound on both of them. So we start out with the 6 Ratling Guns into Krondys. He does an all-out defense, and we unload all the shots. I forget how many exactly it was, but it was 60 plus, and we end up doing 16 damage to Krondys just from this one squad. Then the 3 guys over here, they follow it up, and boom, we clear Krondys off the board. And just to note, Krondys did all-out defense there, like he should, and the Ratling Guns, we just rolled pretty decent, and then he rolled pretty poorly on his saves. I think on average, Krondys lives with a couple wounds, but my plan there was, if I leave him on a couple wounds, he's going to have to run away from these squads. Otherwise, I'm just going to covering fire and then finish him off. So between the 9 Ratling Gun shots now and the covering fire, I think Krondys is going to die for sure. So we went for the play. It worked out even better than I thought. So then we jump over to the Deceiver, and he just shoots his little Doomstar attacks into those Praetors, and we kill one. And then that takes me to the end of my turn. I'm not going to charge. We just finish it up there. I got my battle tactic. I hold both flanks. I had this little Ratling Gun was touching this objective. So 10-point turn. We'll jump over to Stormcast, bottom of 1. For the Stormcast battle tactic, he goes for attack on 2. He's going to try and take these 2 flanks back from me. In the hero phase spellcasting, he doesn't have a wizard anymore, so just jump straight over to me. I go for the magical intervention here with the +1 from the place of power, and boom, we get Karazai with the 1d6 charge spell. So now, I get to do that after he's chosen his battle tactic, so now it just got a lot more difficult for him. And then after that, we have our 3 claw steps move, and thanks to the +2 from the Warpseer, we're going to move these Ratling Guns 8 inches backwards. Then we'll jump over to the movement. He moves Karazai over here 3 inches away from these Night Runners. Praetors follow behind him. And then the dragons, his plan was to go over here and kill these Ratling Guns, but the 3 claw steps really got him. So now he doesn't want to move over here and just waste 700 points worth of output. So he sends them center. He's going to try and make a play, maybe try and take my home objective. Alright, so the dragons, they move down, and thanks to the pendulum, he could have went over here outside of 3, but then the pendulum would have hit him and denied the charge altogether. So he had to stay a little bit further back than he wanted to. And then end of movement, he drops in those Aetherwings. He sets his Aetherwings down here to take this objective. Goes over to me, and I go for a redeploy on the Night Runners, and we hit a 6. So we're scooting them all the way back. And the big deal with that redeploy is now Karazai is outside of 6 inches of this objective. So he's not going to be able to take this objective away from me. And he's going to need a 6-inch charge to make it into my Warpseer over here. We go over to the shooting phase, and Karazai misses his shot into the Night Runners. The dragons over here shoot into the Deceiver and do 3 damage. And then over on my side, thanks to the positioning of these Ratling Guns, with the 15-inch range, their range covers this entire objective. So anywhere he put these Aetherwings, they were still going to get shot. And so I go for the covering fire, and boom, we kill the Aetherwings. And that's where I know a lot of people talk about the Warpfire throwers, how they do maybe a little bit more damage without buffs. But the range is just a really big deal. Just the Warpfire throwers would not have been able to do that for you. Then we go to the charge phase. He goes for his Praetors and they fail. He rolls for Karazai, and he rolls just one dice, rolls the 6, makes it into the Warpseer. Then the dragons, they charge, and they make it into the Clanrats and the Deceiver. Then the dragons, for their rampage, if they make a charge, they can roll a dice, and on a 3-up, they can roll 2 dice and move that far. He hits the 3, rolls the 2 dice, and only gets to move an extra 4. So he scoots them down this way. Then it goes over to my rampages. I go for the 4-up teleport on the Deceiver, and we fail. Then I go for my 3-up to run away, and we get that off. I couldn't go this way because of these Praetors were going to lock me in, but I do just back up this way towards my Clanrats here. And that's just going to make it to where not all of the dragons get to fight me. The Deceiver should live. Then for the Warpseer, he goes for his 4-up fight last and doesn't trigger it. And then since I'm in danger and I'm probably going to die over there, I go ahead and pop his once per game where I can crush the orb and do d6 mortal wounds. And we do 5 mortal wounds to Karazai. He goes for the combat there first, since the Clanrats aren't going to do anything to dragons. I all-out defense, and he ends up doing 10 wounds to the Warpseer. He lives. We got a little bit lucky there. Clanrats, we pile in to fight the dragons. We pile in to make sure he's not going to be able to make it into these Ratling Guns. But long story short, I do a couple damage to the dragons. Dragons, they kill all the Clanrats. They're gone. Then the Warpseer goes and fights into Karazai, and we do 6 damage to him. And that's the turn. For Stormcast, unfortunately, he didn't get his battle tactic because Karazai failed the charge over here. And then he's just going to control 1 and 2 for 2 points. We go over for a priority roll, and I win the priority. And again, looking at the state of the board, I've got my Ratlings in position. Thanquol's within 13. This is going to be a good opportunity for us to try and get these dragons real quick. So we take the turn, we go to Skaven, top of 2. First up the Nahal, we set it back here by his home objective. And for the battle tactic, we go for attack on 2 fronts. We're going to take 2 objectives away from him. I've got my Clanrats I can bring back to life to take his home very easily. And then we're just going to full send Clanrats, both monsters. Everything's going to go into these dragons. We should be able to take that one back pretty easily. So we go over to spellcasting. Thanquol goes for his War Scroll spell to deny commands. And boom, we get it off on the dragons. So they're not going to be able to receive commands, which is huge. When they can't all-out defense, it's almost like you're giving your Ratling Guns an extra pip of rend. So just super, super good. And that's going to help the Deceiver. He's got rend 3 on his attacks, making the dragons save on 6s. That's going to be awesome. We activate the cogs again since Thanquol's standing next to it. So we're going to be -1 to hit as well. Thanquol then goes for a fight last on the dragons. We get that too. The Warpseer, I go for a Wither into Karazai just to get a couple damage into him, and we fail that one. And I was thinking about skitter leaping him out, but leaving him in combat there, the Warpseer's got a chance to kill him in melee combat. And if I teleport away, it's going to give him a chance to countercharge or redeploy onto this objective. So I'm just going to leave it. If I end up losing the Warpseer over here, it's not the end of the world. We're going to be okay. Then for the Deceiver, his spellcast, we go for swords again. We fail, we don't get it off. And we'll jump over to movement. In movement, the first thing we do is we move this pendulum. It moves straight into the dragons, finishes within a half of an inch, and does 4 mortal wounds. The Deceiver just moves over to be outside of 3. Clanrats do the same. And Thanquol does the same. The Night Runners, we go and shimmy them up this way towards these Praetors. We're going to try and shoot them off. And then the Ratling Guns, we go and shift these guys up 6 inches. Just making sure we get in range of the dragons. These guys do the same thing. We move them up this way. So that takes us to end of move. His Praetors, they don't redeploy. The other 2 things are in combat, thanks to the pendulum and not being able to receive commands. So we just go straight into shooting. And long story short, between the Deceiver, Thanquol, 9 Ratling Guns, we unload into the dragons and we kill all but 2 of them. And we leave 1 on 1 wound. Then we go to the charge phase. The Deceiver, he makes it in. The Clanrats make it in. And in the shooting phase, these Night Runners shot in, killed another Praetor. Charge phase, they fail their charge. And then Thanquol, we fail the charge, reroll it, fail the charge again. But still not too worried, the Deceiver can get it done. We go over to rampages. The Deceiver hits his teleport, and I shift him over this way. And the theory there is I like to have the Deceiver to be like kind of a screen for the rest of my army. Like let's say Karazai kills the Warpseer, then starts shifting this way. I want this to be what he hits, or these Night Runners, instead of getting into Thanquol. Just because the Deceiver, he's going to be able to teleport away. And this is also making more room for more Clanrats to get onto the objective, just in case. Warpseer goes for his 4-up to hit fight last onto Karazai. We miss it, but it doesn't really matter because these dragons are fight lasted already. So We start the combats out. Warpseer fights first. We only do a few damage. Karazai lives. Goes over to his combat. Karazai fights back into the Warpseer and kills him. And then since his fight lasted, I go ahead and I pile in with my Clanrats just to get them all on. Fight with those guys. They fight in and they kill one of the dragons that had 1 wound left. And then the Deceiver, I go ahead and I pile him in. And we swing into the dragon and we do 8 damage, which leaves him on 1 wound left. The dragon swings back into the Deceiver, just hoping he can spike. He does about 4 damage, but then I heal a couple at the end of the turn. So we end up having 6 damage on us. Then end of turn, we go ahead and spend our CP to bring back Clanrats onto that home objective back there. And then we go ahead and we spend another CP. And this is one I don't get to do very often, but the Verminlord Deceiver, he charged. He has more wounds than the dragon. So I can spend a CP to power through at the end of the turn, which lets me pick a target I'm in combat with, do D3 mortal wounds. So boom, we kill the dragon. And I can do a regular move. So we move him back this way, get him wholly within 12 of the cogs, back in our good screen position, and the dragon dies. Scoring-wise, we hold both homes. We got our battle tactic of taking 2 objectives, and so it's going to be 10 points. Goes over to bottom of 2 for Stormcast, and things are looking pretty grim. He doesn't have a good battle tactic to choose this turn, so he's just going to move Karazai down this way, try and take their lands in a later turn to still score some points. But hero phase, he doesn't have any spells to cast, and so for me, I just get to do my 3 claw steps. We go and we shimmy these guys over this way, and we don't cast any spells, so it just goes over to movement. Karazai comes down, charges into these guys, and kills them. And also in his hero phase, he had rallied back Karazai and healed 4 wounds. And then that Praetor had ran over here just to get next to Karazai, try and give him that defensive buff for the next turn. So for scoring, he's just going to hold the 1 objective with no tactic, so it's 1 point. We roll priority into round 3, and I win the priority. We go and we take the turn. So top of 3, Skaven. For my battle tactic this time, we're going to go for our Chaos one where we have to kill 2 units. We're going to go for Krondys and that guy. And it's a situation where maybe I don't kill Karazai, but even if I don't, like the board's looking pretty good, we're going to be fine. And if I do kill him, that's going to leave me with like take their lands and flanks for later turns where I don't need to have enemy units on the board. This was a tournament game, so I'm just trying to think how do I score the most points possible. But then we go over to spellcasting. Thanquol, he hits Karazai with the no command spell, so he's not going to be able to all-out defense. We hit him with the Wither to do a couple damage. And we hit him with the Fight Last as well from the Deceiver. We proc the cogs to keep our -1 to hit going. And then end of the hero phase, he rallies back Karazai and heals another 3. We jump over to movement, and just Thanquol moves over here outside of 3. Clanrats shimmy down just to kind of cover both objectives. The 6-pack over here, they just shimmy over here next to the knothole again. These guys shimmy up on. And then end of movement, we go ahead and put these guys into the knothole and pop out over here. Then we go to the shooting phase. We roll the Scryer buff for these guys for Warpcog, and I roll a 1, which does D3 mortal wounds to me. I roll a 3, so I end up killing one of my own models. But between all the shooting, we all out attack these guys, Thanquol and the Deceiver. We end up killing Karazai, and we end up killing the Praetor. And that's the turn. We got both home still. Got our battle tactic for killing 2. 10 points. And then, of course, looking at the board, that ended up being the game. This one here, we're going to chalk up a pretty big win for the Rats. And down go the Stormcast Eternals, and this one was a classic example of just everything going right for me. With Thanquol, we got all of his spells off to turn off commands. That spell combined with the Ratling Guns is going to be like the new Wombo combo. Just, you shut off commands, they can't all-out defense, and then the Ratling Guns are just going to get it done for you. And then just keep in mind that not every game's going to go this way. So this one, we hit all the stuff, all of his guys died, it was kind of a blowout, and that's not how every Skaven game's going to look. Like, you're still going to struggle sometimes with some matchups, especially stuff like Lumineth with a bunch of shooting. But we are still powerful, we can still win games, and things are looking bright for Skaven going into the future. But that's it for today. If you guys ever need models, check us out at warpfireminis.com, and thank you for watching.